Hello and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a weekly podcast where we talk about some Dungeons and Dragons and how you may fit it into your role-playing campaigns. I am Hamilton and I am here with Fiona, who is doing some interpretive dance in a closet.
I'm in a closet now. That's how it works. I finally found the time to go through all my tech stuff and have a basic tech, and now I can stand up whilst I'm recording.
It's really good, isn't it? I miss doing that.
I feel like I'm emoting and all sorts. And it feels good, but I mean, I will get tired in about half an hour, so maybe it's going to be shorter episodes as a result from now on.
I used to do it for when I started Dragonsteel. I had a standing desk, and I used to find it so good for dynamic and when you're being involved in it, and it's really fun. And I can see why Matt Mercer gets up and stands and DMs and stuff.
I do need to have a little table next to me so I can roll dice. So if I was going to do RPGs or something like that, because that's the problem. I don't have anything here. I've got my knockoff Calyx over here, but it's full of cloves, so I can't just pull out a box and go, ha, a D12.
You should get a little Calyx drawer with a D12 or something like that.
Yeah.
Or a dice tower.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be a closet with my clothes in, so I can't change it to you know what? I saw you had message. You'd commented on it, because I was at Target earlier today, and they had those horrific neon things like lights, and they go main character energy vibe check, like what you have for streamers. I don't know where I'd put it in this bit, but could you imagine just surrounded by all these horrific things? And I'm like, hi, I'm Fiona.
I love the idea that your house is completely normal, and then someone just goes to your closet and it's just neon signs, vibe check. All this horrific stuff.
It's like one of those, you know, when there's always one room, there's always that person who goes, I've made my own D&D studio, and everywhere else in the flat is just normal. And then in America, they've just changed the basement room into something. That's what there'll be smoke, there'll be sconces with lights on, there'll be music, and I'm like, it's just me.
If I had the money, energy, and inclination and time, I would so love to make my spare room the fucked up, most freakiest room. Do it in neon with creepy paintings on the walls and just do that. And when people go to and make your house so normal, and then they just stay around your house and you go, and this one, will you all be staying in the room downstairs? Don't follow them. Let them go on their own. And then hear them just go, what the fuck is this?
It's the bathroom's at the second on the left, not the first. Not the first. Never the first.
Never the first room. Yeah, don't send them to the room. Don't tell them about the room. And then they go, I wonder what's in this room. And then they just find but not in a creepy way. In the it's a streamer's nightmare sort of thing.
Streamer's nightmare rather than murder house. Is
not
what
murder
you're saying.
house. Just no, it's just so tacky. Most, and it's everything you've just found in Target. It's Homer's where the gin is, and it's exactly
having little signs that say "Eat, Pray, Love." You're no.
Exactly. Copies of Eat, Pray, Love on every shelf. And and all those sorts of things, and the artwork is just Pikachu as a Mona Lisa, those kind of things.
That's brought back a very quick Fiona story. I went to Washington very recently. We went to the Museum of Secret Doors, and it just basically is a tat shop. You imagine the most expensive charity shop you can think of. And so you have Venetian masks, you've got these glass ornaments, you've got Alice in Wonderland stuff, and then through a room, maybe I took a picture of it and I didn't send it to you. It was just full-on canvas prints of Demon Slayer, and Pikachu, and you're just going why is this here of all the places?
I thought you were going to literally say they're full canvas prints Demon Slayer, but rendered in a Renaissance style.
Oh,
but
no. It is literally as if a screenshot has been taken. Yeah. Well, Hamilton, we're back again to talk. Going back on another expedition to the Barrier Peaks, are we not?
We are, yeah. We sort of got on a little theme, haven't we? We kind of jumped into Greyhawk, and then we thought, why don't we do expedition in Barrier Peaks? And then we had on our list for a long time the Lost Laboratory of Kwalish, which is what we're doing today, which is also set in the Barrier Peaks. And it was just because I was I really want to do that. And I looked at it again. I was like, that's in the Barrier Peaks as well. It feels like a nice little
whilst we're here
segue.
Yeah,
exactly.
Whilst we're visiting the region, we should probably have a...
We like doing travel book clubs, so this is kind of on theme, right?
Yeah, so this particular adventure, I will be honest, I don't know if it's available anymore from the D&D Beyond store. I'm sure it is. I'm sure you could find it somewhere, but it is, Lost Laboratory.
I think you'll be able to find it on DM's Guild, I believe.
Possibly, yeah, DM's Guild, or I'm sure D&D 5th edition tools is on there for sure. Basically, it is an adventure supporting Extra Life, which is the Wizard of the Coast charity that they do. Most years they've usually put out something, whether it's like a little supplement here or there. The year before this came out, so 2017, we had stuff like the Lost Kenku, we had the Tortle package, we had the Growing Above, and then this one came out in 2018. But then we've had stuff like Domains of Delight and all that sort of thing. So it's usually like a very short adventure to get people into, or something a little bit extra. What I will say, because we have covered those previous three, so Growing Above, the Lost Kenku, and the Tortle package, we have covered them on DM's Book. And what I would say, they are very nice, like little things. They've got a bit, the Tortle package works well with Tomb of Annihilation. The Lost Kenku is a very good, easy, my first running of a game. I think it's got good improvised stuff. Growing Above is rubbish, but you know what? It's fine. It does the business. I think it's got like 4 characters in it and no story.
Oh, right, okay.
And then this came out, and it's in another league of its own.
Yeah, it's in another league against some serious games. Like, that's the thing.
So yeah, this is a full-on adventure. And what's really interesting about this, and something that we talked about just quickly off recording, was that this adventure is meant for levels 1 to 10, so it's a little bit higher than most. But also, right at the beginning, it talks about, like, how much time do you have to run this adventure? Do you have time to run it in full? So that's roughly 6 to maybe 8 sessions. You've got a one-shot, and it just breaks it down. I've been a big fan of this recently about, like, what, you know, if you want to tell the story, how much time do you have? Here's where you start. Here's how you would change it depending on how leveled your characters are, how many people you've got, how much time you've got to play with it. Because then you're not trying to cram this whole story into, like, 2 sessions when, let me tell you, there is so much in here. I could not believe it when I opened it, because it was one of those things, again, we talked about it for ages, going, oh yeah, we'll check it out, and then we never got around to it. And I was there going, there's 3 parts to this adventure. And again, if you're doing it fully, and there's adventure hooks as well, where it's like, how would you do this adventure? Maybe you're tying it into one of the previous published campaigns, like Waterdeep Dragon Heist or Dungeon of Mad Mage. Ravnica gets a look in. It was one of the most, like, hey, here's an adventure, but here's a lot of stuff of how to put it in context with what you're doing. You don't have to do it as let's do a city one-shot, it was just so different to the previous ones that had come out before this point.
I would say this is, like, and I was saying to you off podcast, like, a lot of stuff that I've done in the book I've just written, and I think, so I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but the point is, I would say, if you are going to write adventures, and you want to know all the sort of not the story stuff that you should be telling people about your adventure, this is the best example of it, because it's not too much to read, but it's like a perfect, this is how you do an adventure primer of like, here's the background, here's the summary, here's how you can run it, and show people how you can run it multiple ways. Because as you said, it's so, like, you're going to make a really cool dungeon map, even if you do a campaign. And people just like running dungeons. People just want to go and, like, for example, because there are 2 great maps in here, really great maps that are different to what you'd have, and they're really cool town environments. I'd want to take one and just chuck it in a campaign. Give people the opportunity to take that and also give them an adventure around it that can work solo. And doing those little extra bits, it doesn't take a lot of just saying, well, you can replace this with this, and you can replace that with that, and you basically, okay, DM, you're gonna have to write some notes, but you've got it, right?
The main structure is there.
And I think it's so valuable that's like, you're giving added value to your people who are purchasing your products here. And then how adventure hooking it is so good. Like, part of Annihilation, making it part of Waterdeep Dragon Heist, as you said, like, it works really well in that sense. And I just think if you're even providing things for DM's Guild, do the same. Say, like, hey, this is how you can fit it into other big famous books and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've just finished a campaign of something, because it's some of the stuff is like, oh, you've finished, say, Tomb of Annihilation. Well, this is a perfect, like, one keep you tied over as you're tying up all the loose ends. But they also have, like, free non-published adventure ones. There's, like, an invasion of some sort. There's I believe they're called a Malrut, which is like some sort of deity that comes as you've broken some contract with them, and the only way you can solve this is by going to Kwalish and be like, help, try and get some way of doing this. So I think there's a lot to it. And as you said, I think we've not really said it, you could play this adventure backwards. Not many stories, what we've read recently, you can play backwards or, like, move things around. I think the closest I think we can get to is, like, in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, is that bit where you have 10 encounters that you have to play through, and you could play them all through a different order and change things around. But it was just very interesting. I'd never really considered reading something thinking, oh, it's quite simple, and I could change it depending on what my players want to do and what is interesting them. I think the only thing I will say is that it's not necessarily as sci-fi as our previous game. There's a little bits of touches to it,
but
it's more rooted in fantasy, which is no problem at all. But I think just going in mind that it's not compared to the expedition to Barrier Peak, which was about a crashed spaceship. Which is taking its inspiration from the original module. This is a little bit different, and I like it as a result. I think it's just got enough, so I maybe would still pair the two together for sure.
I would say like this is, we were saying at the end of the last one, we found, is that you? And you go and you find the other ship that's been part of the ship that's been jettisoned. I would either vice versa it. This one is the other part of the ship that you need to go find, and then you find that actually it's just the Bone Devil just calling you there to be a sacrifice or something.
The Bone Devil or Kwalish asking for some help. It's absolutely.
And you could make Kwalish, just rebrand Kwalish as part of the original expedition from one of the other scientists from the spaceship or something like that.
So one thing I want to point out right at the beginning, as we've already said, there's a lot of stuff in here about like how you, the DM, can do stuff. But also, again, something I'd not really considered really is giving NPCs, important NPCs with agendas to your players to help them. We always have like quest help, obviously. But here in this one, it gives you 4 different characters, each of them having a secret agenda of some sort or something that is just really unique about them. We have, the dwarven fighter who's a vampire in a trapped coffin that's wandering about like horrific. I love it.
One of the best pieces of art as well. I want that. Is it a miniature? I can't tell if it's an act because it's like on a miniature base. So I think someone's kit bashed that and it looks.
That's really cool if that's the case.
So cool. Yeah,
like basically like a coffin that's sealed and like these sort of like spindly sort of like Doc Ock arms coming out.
Yeah.
You have Gearbox, obviously one of my favorites, a Modron who's just like who has no secret agenda, is just happy to help. You have somebody whose name I've completely forgotten. We've got Mary
Grey Malkin.
Mary Grey Malkin, who I think is the most interesting one.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things that's very interesting. Again, a sort of a witch of some sort, has this sort of history. She is there. She has this deck of several things, which of course is bad news. Bad news bears all around. And she has a cat familiar. And massive spoiler, her agenda is that is her simulacrum. She's actually the polymorphed cat familiar.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that. That's so cool. That's a big
Top
tick
marks.
for me in something that's interesting. And she has a relationship with the trapped vampire, and maybe they're trying to work with each other to free the vampire and go out their separate ways. I just thought that was just really different and interesting. Yeah, and then the final person is like some sort of tiefling sort of bard who is sort of like in with the Bone Devil a little bit. We come to sort of the big first boss. The Grand Master, and has this sort of connection to Levistus, one of the devils, the archdevils.
Like nine lords or whatever they're called.
Levistus is is it the 6th or 7th layer? I can't remember.
Oh, bloody hell, I don't know.
But it's basically the one with all the ice, essentially.
Yes, he's the cold one that's not the last one.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you have a nice mixture of NPCs that you could throw them all in. I think throwing them all in would be too much, perhaps. I think one or two of them would be good. Or maybe having, because both Gearbox and the Levistus son, I can't remember is it Garrett, Levistus son?
Yeah.
They could be a pair, easily could be a pair. And then obviously you've got Mary and you've got, I think it's Tenmir. You don't say the C, I think it's, so you could have them as a pair as well. So I quite like that as a result.
Yeah, another could do with some
pronunciation
naming.
guides.
But yeah, because I was like, Sittenmir?
Yeah,
Tenmir.
I believe it's Tenmir. Yeah, it's CTENMIIR.
Right.
Folks. Yeah, I know. Even I was like, what? No, thank you. We'll call them 10.
Yeah.
But I think, really interesting having hirelings that have secret agendas. Like, again, the sort of the basic starting out thing is that you meet someone called the cartophile, who is somebody who maps these things. It's like, oh, well, Kwalish was gone missing, and for whatever MacGuffin reason, you need to go find Kwalish in the Barrier Peaks, and that's where they last were. And here are some maps, and if you can go there, you can map the area for us. And so it could be a patron of some sort. And then these hirelings are sort of connections or suggestions by the cartophile to go find them. And I just thought it's a nice, easy start, easy to get into. yeah, I just think it would be nice to have more information as we go through about what happens at certain points with the NPCs. The most one that gets is Gearbox, because they can have a way of changing stuff that happens in one of the big buildings.
Yeah, they have a lot more of like an impact on things, really. Overall, I think, yeah.
Yeah, because I think you could easily run this without hirelings, absolutely. But I think because they're so interesting, I'd like to see more impact with them on the story. Like, it gives suggestions about whether they are there at the start, where would you meet them if they're not with you at the start, rescuing them.
Yeah, I like that as well. I thought that was really good. And I think you would try and pepper them around. I think you could just let it play off the characters and see where it goes, because you could always make them be the surprise, they're baddies, or they're working for the baddies, or they're like, spoilers a bit for later on, but Kwalish is looking for aid potentially, because it does also so many times gives you options. Like at the end, it could be like, Kwalish is, when you meet him, it says at the end, like, you could find him just as he is and just working, and he asks for your help in something, and therefore requires from you, if in order for you to get the information you need, he asks from you some of your soul energy.
Yeah, piece of your soul. You're like, what?
But it says, or you could find him like trapped in his suit of armor, and therefore you freeing him helps. He then offers you help in exchange for that, or you find him like completely decimated as part of his cogged machines, and his brain is like all is like he communicates through the machine, and you have to help put him back together. And so I thought what you could have one of them being like, they've been sent to go, and he sent them to go and find someone to come and help him. You know what I mean? So that could be your way through.
I like that.
When you get to the end, you could have a moment where it's like they turn on him or something like that. So that gives you this idea of, have you become friendly enough with them that you want to help? And that might give you some reason to maybe fight him more. Yes. If you build a reason around it, sort of like Tenmir or something like that, who, maybe he's been entrapped in this coffin by Kwalish or something like that. Could be a story.
I think I actually find it interesting. So going to that role-playing Kwalish bit as well, like for you, is Kwalish a villain?
No, that's what I thought, because I think that what it was saying is when you get to Kwalish, technically he isn't a villain, but I think it was allowing you the opportunity as a GM to make that, because it says like anything, it says like always wanton regard for life. So I thought, when we were talking about like linking it to the other barrier peaks, you could have it that, unlike when in the other one you found out that the AI had gone and killed everyone, that you realized that Kwalish, left on his own, did a bit of an alive on them and sort of just went, that's the movie where they crash land in the Andes and they eat each other. But I meant like he becomes like, that's the movie.
He did an alive on them, incredible. Yeah.
He's left alone with everyone and wants to do experiments. And then he seems really nice. I think you do all that. And then he goes, come in here if you agree to do the soul thing. And then when you go in, you find the horrific experiments he's done to these people. And you've got maybe the other scientist from the other one who's like horrified by it, because it's quite body horror-y. So I think
there is a lot of body, massive content warnings for body. Like even I messaged you going, hey, this can be Fiona with the mask off. So just FYI.
Exactly. No, I was fine with it. And I was thinking that's what you could lean into that and be like, Kwalish seems really nice, and he's very like, he's just he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy,
Nice little gnomus scientist.
Yeah, exactly. He's a scientist. And then you go in the room and it's like, and then you walk down the room and there's just tubes and there's like beings that have been put together to create spider beings. And you're like, what? And then you're just like, and he's just talking and he's like, and this was Dave and la 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 la, and walks along and you're like, thank you for doing this. And you're just like, and then you see other barrier peaks person like,
going like, we need to get out of here,
or just like, I knew that person, and then that's the fight.
That's quite good, because I don't think it is very clear. I mean, obviously if we read into the actions of it, like, he goes to this particular place with an expedition which initially fails. He escapes this interaction with this the gyrosphinx and sort of then causes a portal to go to one of the layers of hell, brings back a bone demon by accident, and then he flees. Then goes to this new place, not the Ooze City at the time, but the Glowen. He goes there, discovers like a cult around this Medusa who turns people into glass. Really interesting. But before that he can be turned on him, he opens another portal to one of the layers of the abyss, and Ooze comes everywhere. And you're like, this guy, I feel like it's one of those things where I think he's unaware and detached from his actions.
He solves his issues in quite an extreme way.
Incredibly extreme way.
Well, and he also just trapped a whole peoples in ooze. Like the whole Kenku population of that place are just trapped in ooze.
Trapped, dead, yeah.
Happy to make an undead Kenku mage. Like, you meet them.
Yeah.
And there's also like, and they weren't very nice people because they were sacrificing people to a Medusa and turning them into glass. But it's like, I don't know, it is all a bit.
It's all very grey, I think that's the thing. So
it's very grey.
It's that sort of thing where you go and go, are we really the goodies here? Because it often will have like people going, oh, well, I'm a rogue and I do this. And I think like, if you had a bunch of paladins going, what is going on?
What the fuck are you doing? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like it's definitely chaotic neutral.
Yeah, chaotic neutral for sure. I think
bordering on evil.
Yes, I think there is a little bit of elements of that. So yeah, I think you could take it either way. That is somebody who is unaware of the big consequences to the actions, or just does stuff. Again, we've had this before when we talked about like gnomes from Kryn, for example. They're always a little bit like, oh, we'll see, we'll touch the button and find out, that sort of thing. So you could play it up to be sort of something like that, or more cold and calculating. But yeah, as you said, putting on this facade of like being like thank you so much, you've rescued me. Please come help me with the research, and then just like good Emperor Palpatine style,
Yeah, exactly. I think you could also play it as like bumbling, but then just can't handle setback and just deals with it in the most extreme way, which is like, I'm just going to burn everyone. And you're like, whoa. Yeah. You can just have a conversation. No. We just burn it all down, which I know is what I said when I was in Ravenloft, but I think that was valid. But I think that's kind of what he's doing is like, you could play it as in like, you could just show when you come and find him, maybe he's like trying to deal with something and it doesn't work. So he doesn't just break it. He rips the whole like machine apart into pieces and screams at it and says, start again. Whoa. And it's like, and then he just seems normal and happy and cheery. But really it's just like this very, like he's got this just dark part to him that he can't handle, and that's why he goes, well, screw you, I'm opening a portal to hell, bye.
Bye now. It's for me, and because again, those sort of actions, again, that initial expedition, it says originally perished because of this first encounter with the Sphinx, and he managed to get away. But whether or not he might have sacrificed everyone else to them and then managed to get away, so there's it was very interesting. And as a result, that these sort of what is this character like? How do you trust him or not? I instantly am like, oh, this makes it a more interesting thing. Whether or not I agree about how we get on the journey, like I feel like, oh, we need something from Kwalish, or that I don't know. I don't know about that bit myself. I don't know how I would encourage my party members, because I know people are loot or treasure orientated. But I like the thing of someone being stuck in a power suit. And so they're like, well, there's only one person I can help with this. It's Kwalish, and he's not been seen for eons. So I don't know. I'm not so sure about the motivation to be on the journey to begin with myself.
Well, I think we had that a bit with the last one as well. Was a bit like that, and I think I don't know. It's kind of like, it's like a bit like, hey, adventuring party, there's been weird sightings down in the old valley. You wouldn't wait making a coin, would you?
It's like, I need a map of the region, and also take this vampire with you, I
don't know. I think the only other way I think you could do it is actually focus it more on the Bone Devil and have someone who's gone there, who's clearly ended up as glass or something like that. Like that's what but they haven't been seen for a while.
Yeah.
They went into the Barrier Peaks. They were searching for Doingloin or whatever. And I just want you to bring them back. It's a classic, like the last adventuring party.
They've gone missing in the mountains. Yeah,
they've gone missing in the mountains.
They've gone to try and search for the city of glass. And
exactly.
Yeah, I agree. And then finding that monastery is, the weather is coming in. We best shelter here, and it's actually the worst place on earth. It's
and then you could play that you end up in the Kwalish place first, as it says, and then go to monastery, or you end up in the monastery. I think there's always that, but I think the other one they've tried to keep pushing is like Kwalish knows shit, and so maybe that's why like you need to go to find them, or you just need to find their laboratory because they took the last of the sword of Varagon that saves the day against the evil.
Yeah, it says stuff about notes and stuff like that. Like the thing for Ravnica talks about the Izzet going like, oh, we've discovered some of like coded notes from Kwalish's thing. There'll be more of them in his lab that's been lost for eons. But let's talk to the Cartophile. I'm sure they'll know.
The other thing is like maybe it's like portals. Like no one's like in the land you're in. If that's a thing, it's like we don't like. Maybe you don't have the magic for portals, and you know that they have that ability. So maybe that's a way through. And it's like to like. You get your wizard at the level that should get gate or something like that, or which I think maybe is around 10? I don't know. You could get some, not gate is a high 9th level spell, but like plane shift. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Plane shift, which I think you could possibly, the way to get that level, you could maybe play it, or maybe they're a bit higher, but you could use that as a, like, now you're going to get that, but how you do it is by doing this adventure as a little side quest just for your wizard sort of thing.
The adventure itself, it's, as I said before, it's split up into 3 parts. The first one is like getting to Barrier Peaks itself, which is actually quite a small thing. It's something that I would not deal with. I think I would actually remove this completely and be like, you're already there. Because I understand it's like, oh, well, you're already in one part of the adventure. How do you get here? And it just gives you it gives you a rumors table, gives you sort of idea of like what it's like to traverse through this place. I think fine. I think it's good to have it. I just not for me. And then the second and third part is, as we sort of said, the monastery of the distressed body, and then the ooze flooded city. Both great like titles for chapters, I think. But what it is that, again, you come across this monastery, you discover that Kwalish has been here as written, and then find out for various means and stuff, like you have to maybe defeat a bone devil or talk to brains in jars, get past a sphinx, all this sort of thing. And then you're like, oh, Kwalish isn't here, by the way. But here's where, this leads on to the next thing. So whether or not this is just like a pit stop on the way here, did he have a lab here, or has it been completely destroyed? It's up to you. And then you have the ooze flooded city, as we sort of talked about, this like undead city with a Kenku and the undead Medusa, and then this ooze. I kind of wish it was either one or the other. I love both locations. I think they're really good, and there's lots of detail. But it feels like, oh, we've dealt with this bone devil, we've dealt with the cult. Wait, we've not finished. We've got like another 2 or 3 sessions to go. We've not found Kwalish. I think that's the only thing I thought. I love both of them. I really think they're really interesting.
What I would have done is I would have had the ooze city in the valley below this floating part, the monastery. And so that is they've separated out. So there's a little bit more connection between the two. So I don't think that's a problem.
No.
And that you then somehow in that process, you then we get the skiff from, you get your own skiff from here that then leads you down. And then you don't have to do the whole, when we come to the ooze city, there's a whole point about finding a apparatus of Kwalish, which allows you to go and
like go through the ooze.
It's a submarine that allows you to go. I would just give you that as part of this. They call it the garage. I think it's the garage, the holding bay or whatever it is, and just have the hangar. That's it. And I'd have the hangar on this part, and then you collect this thing and you go down, and then you just invest, and then it's all in ooze, and I would just have the whole city just covered in ooze.
I feel like there needs to be more connection, because it doesn't feel like, because it feels, oh, we're here, we're at this big monastery, which is quite something. Like, again, this cult, this idea of people going missing, the bone devil stuff, and then it goes on to talking about these brains in jars, which is the things that are operating and keeping things afloat. But then there's another brain in a jar that we don't talk about. You go to the treasury, you find it. Turns out that is the brain of the bone devil. What, you're like, again, some really horrific horror stuff, which I obviously absolutely love. But it's just like, okay, I guess we're embroiled in this, whatever this is now.
Yeah, it did feel a bit like, oh, and the Bone Devil's actually a little Mephit, I think, who's...
Yeah, it's a little Mephit that's just piloting something like Ratatouille style, you know.
But it's also like got 147 hit points and like can decapitate you if it gets a 20, and you're just like...
It's got Vorpal blades. Yeah, swords for fingers.
For hands, and you're like, Jesus Christ, it's great, but it's like, did it need that? I don't know, but it's kind of fun. And I think if you were playing it as you could just have the Bone Devil whole story as part of it. And it's just like, you could even, if you've got like a patron, like a warlock patron, you could have it as like your patron had a beef with this Bone Devil, and that's what you got to go sort out. And then you realize that it's not even, you kill the thing and realize it's not the Bone Devil, and then you've got to deal with the brain thing. And then it could be like, when you find the brain thing, it says, well, I can show you to Kwalish and all this amazing other stuff. And then your patron could be like, Kwalish, that's interesting. Find out about that.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So, and kill the Bone Devil whilst you're
here. Yeah, having that sort of player interest because their patron likes it. I like that better, rather than like, you're already on the road to Kwalish. And because by the time you get here, I don't give a toss about Kwalish. Where is he? Who gives a heck,
Well, but you just put him as a brain in the jar as well if you want to. I think if your players are not finding, like, you just think they're not picking up on it or not finding it, you can just be like, and then you find Kwalish. He's just a brain. Blah, blah, blah. Or he's in the machine. Like, you just put him in as part of the machine. And you free him by killing the Bone Devil, and then he thanks you by giving you a treasure. There you go.
So, like I said, it's got enough to be going. It's one of those things, because I'm like, it's like almost like two points on a forking path. Do you go to the monastery with all the bone devil stuff and the creepy horror stuff, or do you go to the City of Ooze? And you're like, well, City of Ooze sounds much more fun. To be honest, that's the thing. That feels very different. We've seen many cults with various devils and demons before. And don't get me wrong, I think it's really interesting, and I do like that twist of like, oh, the bone devil isn't what they say, but it just feels like Stephanie died fighting it, you know. So it's I think it's that something going like, what's more fun? It's the ooze. People want to go to the ooze and go, how do we navigate this? You know, so. Yeah.
There are some really fun things in there, though. Like, I want to say, like, I really like the brains in the jars, and they've all got like different information, and they've got like knowledge they have, and their area of control. They have different areas of control in the city, which is cool. And the floating bridge.
Yeah, each of these brains, as you said, like they power parts of the particular monastery, but they also control these sort of tensors floating discs, which go to the treasury, and they are instructed by that no one but the bone devil can cross them. If so, they'll just drop the plate, and then whoever's on it will disappear into the sort of the ether underneath, and then they'll get transported to some prison block. But I like it that then therefore you have to talk to these brains and sort of convince them that you are good. So some of them might be like, oh yes, you can pass, but then one of them's like, I don't like the cut off your jib. No, and you'll have to jump over these things. And there's like a little diagram showing you how different. It's not like in orders from 1 to 10. Yeah, I really like. I like that little puzzle. I actually I kind of enjoyed that sort of physical thing. Yeah,
there was a nice puzzle, and there was and we've missed out like the Sphinx at the beginning. There's a puzzle we had there, and then there's also like if you try and cross on your own, as you said, if you fall, you will see your party member fall, and you'll try and look for them. They won't be there because they get teleported to the cells if they fall, which I think is great. And it's got really it's got lots of little fun things like that in this place.
We skip over the Sphinx a little bit, but what I really enjoy about it is that basically the first guardian, the first sort of little boss, is this Gyrosphinx who is super big and everything like that, and it's like, look...
Amazing piece of art as well. It's like super detailed.
Oh, the artwork is gorgeous in it, yeah. And they said, look, I ask all these riddles, and I think I'm really great. I've got big intelligence, blah, 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 blah. You tell me a riddle, and if I can't guess it... You can pass, and it encourages you as a GM to use your phone and use the internet and like setting the expectation before, and you have 30 seconds to find the answer. And I was like, I love that because they've got these ion stones around the creature's heads, which makes it smarter. I quite like that. It's something that I'll be like, okay,
3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's really good. Or you can just make it a roll, but that is a fun like mechanic. There's loads of little mechanics like that in this this whole thing. It's a real shame that things like this aren't in more adventures as a general rule. It feels like this should just be part of every single. It feels like this was more a part of things.
Like older adventures probably were like, well, let's bring the immersion to your table. You're all in person. Here's the cipher. Try and break the code and stuff like that. So they'd work. Yeah, I think there's a mixture of that now. Whereas maybe, and this is not a comment on recent adventures, but sometimes it's like, oh, we'll do a roll and you give them a clue and stuff like that. I don't know. I say this, I think it's very hard to come up with a cipher or a riddle or anything like that, and reducing it down to a roll. I mean, I'm a big fan of, and I know you are too, having players play themselves in games. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, you won't know that the answer to this riddle is water. Like, if you know if the player knows, your character knows, you know.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally agree. And I think that's the thing. And it's just nice to see. It would be nice to see more of this, I think, is sort of, I think. Yeah.
The final thing I did want to say, so the reason why I said Fiona with the mask off for this one, because there's certain bits of this particular adventure where I'm just like, wait, what? And I have to reread something. So, for example, the Bone Devil themselves, they have a cloak made out of the flayed faces of their cult members. And a lot of the prisoners get their faces flayed off at some point, and they act like a swarm of bats. And don't get me wrong, I think that's cool, but even I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
It was very grim. In the sense of, like, again, if you're not aware that was what was going to happen, like, I just wasn't prepared for it at all. That's why I messaged you going like, this is dark and I like it, but I don't know. Could you imagine if I just turned up with like a cloak and it's like, this is one of my faces. Don't worry about it, darlings. It's And the drawing at the sort of the cover art is of this Bone Devil with the faces. I thought it was Kwalish. I completely wrong.
I did as well. I thought that was Kwalish as well. Yeah, no, and now I realised what it was showing when it said that. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Gross. Gross and cool, and so just a heads up on that. Final thing I wanted to say was the monastery itself. So I don't know if it's just me, and maybe it's just my copy of it. Something like that. So we have, you were saying these maps before. We have these beautiful like line maps, sort of isotopic. Is that how you pronounce it? The
isometric.
Isometric. Thank you.
Yeah.
But then the actual locations of the monastery themselves, I don't think there's a map for it.
No, there isn't. No, there isn't.
I thought I was going a little bit like bananas, going like, where's the no? So it feels a bit of a shame because maybe we've been done out of a really nice map as a result. Because at the end of this adventure, there is like a beautiful like full color map of the ooze city, which is gorgeous. And I'm just like, well, where's the one at the monastery? You know,
they've done it for whatever they could afford reasons, I guess.
Probably.
But I think it's kind of like I've done the same in my book, which is like I've just shown a city and put little dots on it, and then I've only done maps for like the dungeons. I have for like where you need to go, but like I've talked about lots of different places because I think they probably, again, they were trying to be efficient, but also like it's quite. I think a lot of these places would get dulled down by the bog standard D&D map layout, and I think it really nullifies what looks like quite kooky pyramidal spaceshipy bits stuck in a rock, and I think you imagining that is going to be better than whatever. And like the little images they have, like I love the very simplistic way that the Merenoloff's barge is literally just a thin line, and then it's like a flat like super sci-fi plate you can imagine that's like, so you've got this Merenoloff which is really like old school sort of Charon sort of look, and then it's on like a mechanical board, like a big like plate from a Death Star, I kind of like that.
Absolutely, like a little so something to move pallets, that's not what I mean, but like a little like air dock thing that you
exactly and like those little drawings are really great, and I think and the little tensor disc drawing is enough to just I agree with you, it's not always nice to have more things, but like I think they've done well enough to like give you the flav, and it's not like you could just draw an area for the combat if you want to,
I have no problem with that. It totally makes sense. I think it's just because it has locations, M1 your opening of the monastery, M2, and normally I go, so there's a map somewhere, and then I was like, can't find it, maybe I've missed it. I'd also say, again, the arts, the sort of illustrations and art, they vary a lot. Presumably they got a lot of people doing charity illustrations in. There's like some, or like you sort of talked about that sort of mini bashing thing, for the kit bash for the vampire, the sort of tiefling bard / rogue hireling. It's a very cartoony looking character, and instantly I was like, oh, is this an adventure for children? And then it is not. So I think the art varies for me from bit to bit. But again, I assume because it's a charity thing, it's like they're like, who would like to contribute? And then there's like, oh yeah, I'll contribute. So there are some what feels like very cartoonish, childlike drawings in this, which feels in absolutely opposition to what the story is.
But I think that's, as you said, it's part of the extra lifeness, and I think people donate their art and stuff like that, and donate their time to it. So it's kind of fair. I wanted to also, before we go, is note some of the other things at the back of the book as well. You reminded me when you said that, is like they have the further options thing, even more options. Like the brains in jars can have like the desire for a new body, or you might want to make them famous people, like lesser known figures, like Qual, Queen. I don't know who these people are. Noiser and Tuni the Merciless.
There's a couple of wizards and a couple of like famous elves and stuff like that. Yeah,
but it's kind of like you could maybe make one of them Volo. It feels like that would happen. You could so imagine he's come to have a look and then ended up like that.
Each of the major sort of like people that you meet has an almost alternate like start or an ultimate like sort of different story to them in that further options, which I again haven't seen before. I really like it. I think that's really fun. There's like a whole rumors table right at the back which has over 100 rumors compared to like, I'm just like somebody, like, again, there's a lot of work that's gone into this, and I'm like, I'll take these rumors and put them anywhere. It's so I again, from a perspective of like creating an invention, like what additional things could you include that will help GMs tell your story just in general, go, oh, I like this. Stuff like that really works. And that's, I was very impressed by it.
Yeah, it just keeps giving you more and more and more and more. I'm trying to find that map as well. You said there's a nice
right at the end. Right at the end. There's a DM's version and a player's version.
Yeah.
Which, look, again, I only spotted them today. I was like, wait, this is gorgeous. Because the weird thing with the book is like it sort of goes, and the end, and here's all the further options. So like, wait, what?
Yeah, no, it's a great map, and I didn't see that one either, because it doesn't, when you skip through, it doesn't come up, but it's there.
It's right at the back.
It's so cool.
So nice, isn't it?
That is really good.
And there's other, they've got the appendix with all the monsters that you will need. They've got some magic items that are brand new to this. They've got some spells as well, some new spells that you would use specifically for this. So it's like even more stuff. Again, not that every adventure that should come out should have all these things, but I'm just going, wow. How did we not know about this before? It was one of those things. It's an Extra Life one. No, we won't look at it. It's just full of so much stuff, and we haven't even talked about the oozed flooded city really in any detail.
Yeah. No, because there's a lot in that, as we said. Like we've already mentioned Kwalish, and the fact that there is a Medusa that vitrifies everyone. Yeah, which is a good term, because if you know vitreous enamel, that's because it's glass.
Is it?
And vitrines are, when you get windows that come out from a shop and they kind of curve round, and then you curve in and you go in the middle of, like, you have those old Victorian shop fronts.
Yeah.
They're called vitrines, those windows.
Oh, that's very good. I like that. Yeah, so this idea of a Medusa who's, instead of turning to stone, can turn people to glass, and having a Kenku cult around them, whether or not they wanted it or not. But when they died, the Kenkus were like, no, let's resurrect her. And then you just have this horrifically undead Medusa.
It's an amazing drawing.
It's such a good drawing. I really like it. Again, the ooze-covered city itself I think it's really interesting. What I like about it is these things called the baubles, which are like almost like bubbles in the ooze themselves, where you could touch it and you go to a different like plane, almost like a static image. And then the creepy part of this is that all these locations, they have people like in the glass statues put in place, almost like a horrific sort of diorama type thing. Because Kwalish has gone, all right, no one's here anymore, so I guess I'll just make it look like this, and have like almost like a weird artistic like 3D model. It's awful, and I love it. I just think it's really interesting that you just go to a marketplace and there's always people like buying apples, or there are people waving.
I just think you've got to make Kwalish chatting to them. You meet him in, like, it's deathly silent, right? And you meet him in the market going, oh yes, I'll have a pint of peaches, thank you so much. And then he goes, oh excuse me, oh you've fallen over and smashed a glass, whoopsie. And just like completely like laughing, and then like sees you and goes, hello. It's like you've been spotted, dancing by yourself. You've been spotted by people.
Exactly, didn't see you there. Yeah. These are called baubles. These sort of like this like sort of thing where you can go into the space and like see stuff. And again, some really good examples of like different kind of baubles. It feels like choose your own adventure kind of thing, where you could go to a couple of them and then find Kwalish's workshop straight away and stuff like that. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I had never really considered a city filled with ooze, and also like how you would get around that sort of thing, as you said, the sort of apparatus of Kwalish, this sort of submarine, but also like finding these weird baubles, like almost like in the air, this sort of air bubble type thing. Just the image of it, just really interesting. I think there's a lot of stuff in it. And when I said it was like less sci-fi last week, I mean like it's not on a spaceship, but as you were saying, you have these sort of sci-fi references. There's this idea of a two-way monitor that you can go and check in on the Medusa and check in on Kwalish's lab as well. There's a really cool bit at the end, which you might have seen, where you turn on this monitor, you see the Medusa, and her gaze can affect people in your room. I thought that was really cool and interesting, that you could again go, wait, there's something I remember. Take this, Kwalish. Boop, like turn him to glass. All of it has elements which it got me excited to think about it. And the weird sort of body horror. There's like a moment in the workshop where you discover like he's been using like the glass intestines of people to have as tubes. And I was just like going like, who thinks of this stuff?
The owner.
I was like, me. That's who.
But who else? Because
who is? I need to speak to them.
Meant to be just me.
There's a lot in it. Again, if people aren't too fussed about the body horror stuff, obviously you can easily take it out. But I just thought, what a good adventure that has the ability to be shortened, expand, played backwards, have people in it, not have people in it, put Kwalish wherever you want, whether it's in the monastery, in this ooze-filled city. It's just interesting. And I wonder if, again, this is me big braining it, so to speak, with brains in jars. But this could be its own like full-on published adventure, that you're on the trail of Kwalish and you have to go to 3 or 4, 5 places, and then you find him at the end, that sort of thing. And then each place is its own different like mini adventure. You know, like again, we're thinking of Vecna going to all the planes. Maybe you do something similar, but in the Barrier Peaks, you go to all these lost cities, you know, and investigate them a little bit. So that was the thing I was thinking. It's like it feels too much for like a one-off adventure. But if you were doing like full level 1 to level 20 campaign,
I like that as an idea. Like,
the hunt for Kwalish, you know, that's what I was thinking. So,
well, I even just think like if you wanted to just make it like your players just like the whole Indiana Jones-ness of things, like that's what they want, and you just and every like session or every like sessioned group is your part of an adventuring party that are explorers, and that's your job, and you go. You just, I mean, I think it's a great, fun way of doing it.
Actually,
Then this needs to be in a museum.
You do your Indiana Jones, but your Tomb Raider-esque type thing, where you're looking for these artifacts in Barrier Peaks where you know things have been happening.
And you just sell them for money. Like that's all you're doing it for. There's no like, doesn't have to be world ending, does it? It could just be like. And what you do in your downtime is research the next one. And it's like, we've got these ones. You could go and you could make it a whole planar adventure and going, like the monastery one that we did could be one. A bit like the character actually I made for that monastery one in the sense
would
of
work
that
quite well for this as well.
That sort of thing, like of just being a dungeon delver. And like, I think that's a decent.
I think that's really interesting, that having that sort of aspect of like Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider style, that they're caught up in stuff, and both those things have that. You can put it in Eberron, you can put it in like Tomb of Annihilation, so just outside Chult, you know. So there's loads of places you can put it as well. Really interesting. I again, it's that sort of thing going like, would I be interested to run this? And I go, I think I enjoyed it. But actually having that, what's the reason that people would go and do this? You know, I was saying before, like, what's the motivation? Well, Kwalish created 5 individual artifacts. I was on the hunt for 5 artifacts, and 2 of them are called this and this, and we need to go find Kwalish. And follow his trail to wherever it was. And then maybe you never meet him. Maybe he was with you all along. Who knows? But I like that, makes it a much more, that's a cool motivation thing, that we're all treasure hunters or treasure seekers for different things. Maybe some people are against it, maybe people are for it, as long as you treat that sort of stuff sensitively, because obviously as British people we're very aware of taking other people's treasures. I really like that as an idea. I think it makes me want to try these things out, and then it has that, as we said, that sort of supernatural / horror / sci-fi elements that you can turn up and down depending on your flavour of adventure.
It's really good. I think that's it. I don't have any. Yeah, we've said everything, and I think you put it perfectly there.
That's very kind of you.
Well, no, but you didn't. No, and then so I think that's it. We just more of this, please.
Yeah, I think this was one of the better ones for the Extra Life stuff. I think always check out the Extra Life stuff. Obviously, we had a look at the Domains of Delight together, and that was enough to get us thinking about like what else would we do. And then this is a full adventure that just feels great. And like again, is it the best adventure ever? No, but it gives us enough to change things. Like it feels like a damn world of difference to the Greyhawk Gazetteer that we looked at, or even Barrier Peaks from the Infinite Staircase. Like there was just stuff where we go, God, there's a lot of work involved. Well,
just the whole of the Infinite Staircase, to be honest. And the only one it reminds me a lot of in the Infinite Staircase, the one I really enjoyed, which is the first one.
The first one,
from that, and I think it has a similar vibe to that, where it's like, here's one way you can take it, and if you want to keep going further, you can keep pushing yourself and finding out more about this, and there's different ways of playing that. So I kind of enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Before we go, what's the timetable for next year in terms of D&D? Like, what are they? I was just trying to find it now. What is coming up?
Off the top of my head, I believe the Monster Manual will be coming out in end of January, beginning of February, and then we're going to have the 2-parter primer about the Forgotten Realms.
It's 2-parter.
Yeah, so one is for players and one is for DMs.
Yes.
And then I think there's another adventure. There's another anthology coming out. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
New starter set remaking Keep on the Borderlands.
Yeah, the new starter set. I don't know what that one is. No?
Dragon Anthology Adventurers featuring Dragons in Dungeons.
Got to get the classic in.
Dragons in Dungeons. I found the roadmap. Here we go.
Yes.
Right, so we've got Player's Handbook September 24, Dungeon Master's Guide November 24, Monster Manual February 25, Dragon Anthology Summer 25, new starter set Fall 25, Forgotten Realms Player Guide Late 25, and Forgotten Realms Campaign Guide Late 25. So There's no adventures coming out.
Well, the anthology technically will be adventures. No, but like, I mean, to be fair, they've pumped out so many adventures recently. Vecna, the Golden Vault.
Vecna's the only one that's a proper, not an anthology, because the Golden Vault is an anthology. The other one, Staircase is an anthology.
Yeah, I think they've put out enough, and then they're now trying to focus again. And we talked about this when we talked about Greyhawk. It's that nostalgia. So they've gone, we need dragons and dungeons. Get that ticked. Forgotten Realms, Faerun, whatever the primers. Let's tick that off. So I don't think there's anything new until at least 2026, which maybe it's disappointing. I don't. Again, we don't know what Extra Life if they still do Extra Life or anything like that. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I just think and we had Planescape, didn't we? I just think there's been a lot of anthologies, and it'd be nice to have a really good, solid, like Dragonlance. I think was the one we had before, but I just think I felt a bit disappointed in a few of the adventure stuff, and I think it'd be really good to have. I just don't think there's been a super one since Witchlight.
We need a new adventure stuff. I mean, I'm thinking of like. We had Strixhaven, which was fine. Wild Beyond the Witchlight was also fine. Like, interesting. Yeah. That was somewhere different and new. The problem is, again, it's that sort of trying to come up with a big storyline that gets everyone involved. I think it's all been a big focus on the 50th anniversary, so therefore we must tie everything from this current year, next year, all into it. And I'm like, I get it. I do get it. But
I'm hoping for something good in 26 then, that something that's going to be like a real, like Waterdeep 3 would be great. I'd be happy for that if they could, because they're doing the Forgotten Realms primer. Maybe they do something like that, but just something new, like a real big, bombastic, proper adventure.
It's interesting considering, because I know Waterdeep Dragon Heist is your favourite adventure. I really enjoy it as well. I love Curse of Strahd.
Curse of Strahd though.
But they're big adventures with a very simple storyline, realistically, but they've got enough to make it exciting. So
exactly.
we need to have something exciting, I think. And 100%. I think I'd love to see more stuff like this, as you said, like if it's Extra Life. Maybe a lot went into this. That same level going into some bigger publisher adventure about something new could be exciting.
It would be really good. Be really good.
All right, Hamilton, thank you so much for talking to me all things Kwalish. Where can we find you, my friend? What are you up to? Where are you on the socials?
Where am I on socials? Well, I'm now on Blue Sky.
Welcome.
Yeah, well, I know, I'm late to the party. Like, I'm going on there and everyone's like been there for ages. And I'm like, oh, hello, I've turned up now.
Hi.
I was like realizing I've like completely just not been on Twitter, X, whatever, properly. Just since Elon took over, and then like the last year I've just been like, I can't go on there, it's just so horrible. And like 6 months has been even worse. It's like I just don't want to even use it now.
No.
And so so I'm on there now. Everything's Fuel Chaos. It makes it easy now because it's the only one that wasn't Fuel Chaos.
Yeah,
So
I was going to say yours was the Dungeon DM, the Dragon DM.
Yeah, Dragon DM. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's a shame because I liked it, and but it's fine. We are. So you can find me there. You can find me on Threads and Instagram. Instagram's where I'm hanging out the most of the time at the moment, or in my Discord and on my YouTube channel where I'm doing, as I said at the beginning, doing some Necromunda stuff. We've got, as I said, we got another episode coming out with the best painted for the competition. Then we've got the best narrative, and we've got a combined one of narrative basing and artistry. And the narrative is a lot of fun. I recommend, like, even for people, potentially it's a way in where we just talk about the top 3 and I just do the stories people have written for them, and I do them in some fun voices.
Yay, cute.
No, but they're really great. Someone's made up a whole story about a bunch of little grots, which are like small orcs, but like goblins, they're called grots in Warhammer, who fight people with spoons in a neo-noir way. They've written a story about them, and they're called the Cucciaccio Boys. And so there's some really good little stories there. And then and I've got a little kit bash coming out of some freaky horses I've done with tentacle faces. And
classic Hamilton. That's all I'm saying.
And apart from and then I'm doing rap punk stuff on stuff which I'm getting busy on, and that's about it. But that's not what we're here for or why we're here. But where are we?
Great question as always. I love your questions, Hamilton. What are we? I'm in my new streamer closet. Hashtag chill vibes or whatever it is. Vibe check. Main character
Hashtag
energy.
Main character energy.
Main character energy. What?
Hashtag antagonist energy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I am entering my villain era. That's what they say, isn't it?
Yeah.
God, I'm so old. Why are we here? Well, we're recording a podcast, and we're going to keep recording podcasts in this closet. But where? I'm so glad you asked. My name is Fiona. I do the What Am I Rolling podcast, which is twice monthly tabletop RPG one-shot podcast. Sorry, words were in a different order there. And it's part of the One Shot Podcast Network, which is doing very well. Slight clang as dropping the microphone there. I will say what's quite nice is that there was recently a Patreon drive that went over that happened over the One Shot Network, and the most viewed video, Hamilton, the most viewed VOD was me running the TTRPG pub quiz. I know. Woo! It wasn't me running an actual play. It was me running a pub quiz, which is fine. And I recommend checking it out because obviously the more views it gets, then people are like, oh, maybe we'll invite her back for more. But what I will say is that somebody tried to actually me, and I actually them back. And it was the most, and somebody clipped it, and I feel really good. Oh, it was great because they were like, well, I'm going to get extra points here because I'm going to correct the question person. I was like, okay, do it. And it was, I honestly, I felt so freaking smug because not only that did they get the answer wrong.
Got it, punk.
not only did they get the answer wrong, but they let them know that the other people in the quiz that it was a trick question, and so that everyone else got it right as a result of them trying to actually me. And it felt so good.
Sweet. So sweet.
Anyway, go check out the VOD.
I feast on your tears.
They're so salty. Please go check that out. And check out the One Shot Podcast Network as always. Otherwise, I will be doing some more Too Long Didn't Reads at some point. Unfortunately, the last couple of weeks I've just
in a while. Yeah.
Oh, it's so honestly, it's one of those things where I'm like, yes, I'll do them, and then something comes up, and I don't want to necessarily rush them. And sometimes there's some big ones. We've got some like the Electric State. I've got scheduled
yes, I'm interested in that
the
one.
Discworld one, almost something. So we'll get back to them at some point.
Oh, have you got the Discworld one?
I've got the quick start for it.
Nice.
So I want to check that out. So yeah, they are coming back. It's just I've had a couple of weeks of like doing lots of recording, which is very nice. And then, for example, today I had to go to the optometrist, and then I couldn't see anything for a little bit. So I was like, I can't really stream and try and read something on my computer. So it's all good. But yeah, go check them out. All the links will be in our stuff. Come join the Discord as well. We're there. We're going to be chitty-chatting about D&D and all
Chitting and chatting.
Chitting and chatting about RPGs in general. We'd love to have you there. Yes. We'll both be, hopefully when this comes out, this will be before Dragon Meet. We'll both be at Dragon Meet.
Yeah.
Hamilton's running Dragon's Duel.
Yes,
very exciting.
The D&D game show.
Yes, the D&D game show, which is going to be so much fun. If you've seen...
I was going to say with audience participation is what I was going to say. It's just so very similar to the MCM one that you did and the UK Games Expo one as well. Again, if you love quizzes, if you love improv games, if you love Hamilton making stuff up, this is definitely the show for you. So please come along and check that out. It'll be really, really cool of you. Please do. And come say hi when we're there. If Fiona looks really stressed, just don't say hi.
Tell Hamilton, say hi to Fiona for me.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll find her when she's there. She's not. I'm sure it'll be fine. I don't think it's going to be as stressful as last year.
Yeah, I think yes. For various reasons, this year will be a lot less stressful in some areas, and then maybe some stressful in other areas. But I will definitely be there with my Dragon Meet volunteer t-shirt, but I might change out of it for my DM's book club shirt as well, because I've got one of those because you gave me one. And we've got somewhere in this closet, Hamilton, there is the maybe I can pull it out. Hang on.
See you on the flip side. Come on, that was such a good t-shirt, right?
It is. It's a great t-shirt. I've got it still. It's hung up in the wardrobe, isn't it? So anyway,
proof that it's hung up on a hanger. It's not on a hanger.
It's not stuffed under the. It's not stuffed under the bed.
I think your closet is as big as the dining room. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I could run up and down it. So it's quite.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, thank you, folks, so much for listening. We very much appreciate it, and we will see you.
On the flip side.
Bye. Bye.